Well, hi again, everybody. Jake back here with you for another edition of Demko Modelworks. This will be part 7, I believe. Uh, kind of a quick update on this. On the Kestra, I had the pylons and everything set up. I had it all glued together, and realized I started taking a look a little bit here. And before I get into all this, I'm going to kind of show you what's going on right now. I'm going to have to go back through and redo the starboard nacelle. I was looking, I got it all mounted together and all wired up and ready to go, and realized that when I got to looking real close to get ready to do my detail painting, I realized that the nacelle was broken. And let me zoom in and show you. If you can see right there, not but the blue glass had cracked. I don't know why or how it did. I just had some tape wrapped around there to to hold everything together. But the glass had cracked, and I'd realized that the plastic itself had cracked down in here on the bottom of the nacelle. So can't figure out why it did that, but it did. So there's nothing to do about it but fix it. Thank goodness. I had another Enterprise C. It's the 1400 scale, and this, mind you that this. Let me zoom back out again. Mind you that this is the clear kit, the Pro Shop version of the Yamaguchi. And so we're going to be we're painting it all up, but this is the clear version, and I believe this is ABS. I'm not sure, but be real mindful, guys, when you're doing these kits, these clear kits, to be very, very careful with them, because it did crack, and I can see it cracked on both sides. So be very careful when you're building these kits, guys, because it is very sensitive. And so what I did is I took the nacelle, since I had another spare kit of the Enterprise C, and this is the styrene version, same size, same thickness, and everything else. It's just styrene instead of clear. So what I did is I took it and I painted it all up and got it all ready to go. And so now what we're gonna, what you can see, I had the these magnet wire can get a little bit grabby sometimes, but I have all my detail painting done on the pylons. Let me zoom in a little bit to show you a little bit better. But I have all the detail painting put on the pylon, and on the inside and the outside there. But let me tell you something, folks, on this. I really recommend that when you do, since there's no Aztecing on this, if you do use a gloss coat, I recommend that you do not use a gloss coat on this, especially because this is an enamel. This paint is an enamel, and these Vallejo paints are acrylic. And so I'd spray a couple of coat, I'd spray a coat down, dry it, spray another coat down, let it dry, and then I'd put tape over it, after it had cooled and dried, and let it set for a couple of hours or so. And I touched it, and the paint just peeled right off. So come to figure out that the gloss coat on here was too much for the acrylics to hold, so I had to go back through and do a light sanding on this. So if you do use a gloss coat on these these models, guys, I really recommend that you sand them down, sand the areas that you're going to be using acrylics for. That way it will allow the paint to really grab a hold of the kit. That way you're not going to have to spin. I had to do this 4 or 5 times before I realized what was going on. So but we finally got that settled, and now it's dried and good to go. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to we're going to be kind of going through and showing you how to paint, how I paint the clear glass on this. And I do not diffuse these. I'll show you a way that I do it, and we'll get everything set up. And let me get this this lower half put on the nacelle, on the pylons, and I'll be right back with you guys. So stay tuned, and we'll walk you through real quick on how I wire it in and get all get all the wiring done on it, because it's already pre-wired from what I already did. But I'll walk you through that here again in a little bit and go from there. So guys, so stay tuned. I'll be right back. Alright guys, welcome back. Finally got all the after a little bit of time here, I got all the electronics put back in, got the nacelle mounted back on, and got some glue glued down in there to hold this up, and got my LED back in here for my Bussard collector, and got the Bussard collector dome put back on. And so now we're just going to let this dry, and then this evening I'll go back through and close it all up and get it ready to go, and go from there. So I really recommend, guys, that you take your time with these models, especially with these clear kits. Don't rush through them, because they're very finicky, and you just take your time. Don't rush through them, guys. You don't want to rush through them. Make sure that your nacelles and stuff are pretty much level. I pretty much, when I get them done and on, and I make sure that they're level, I set them upside down to where, with a little cup up underneath here, to where they dry where they're level. So it's really worth it, guys, to take your time on these, and make sure it gets all everything's all working properly, and make sure you get all your seams done. I got a seam right here that popped on me, so I'm going to go back through there and fix it, and do a little bit of touch up on it. But pretty much this is done now, and I have my 1.8 millimeter LED in the back on the top for my nav light, or my strobe light, sorry. And then I have my LED light strip down in here to show on the bottom, to where it'll illuminate down and light these up. These are really well worth it. So to purchase these LED light strip, guys. So but anyway, moving on now. We'll let that dry, and then tonight I'll come back through and do get all that put back together and go from there. So now I have my clear LED, my clear Bussard collector, flux chiller grills, and I'm going to take a little bit of tape and get these down to where they're not gonna move on me when I'm spraying them. And I'll show you how I spray that. I'll probably go this way. Alright, now what I'm using for this is, normally I use the clear transparent blue, but I've noticed when the transparent blue, you spray it on, it has a tendency to run and puddle. So what I've been using is, I've been using the Tamiya Flat Blue XF8, and it really has a really good blue hue to it. I mean, it really looks good. Some people will, you can spray a light coat of copper around it, then the blue, then the white for diffusion. But I just leave it at blue and white, and I'll show you how I do all that here in a second. So let me shake this up and get it into my airbrush, and we'll go from there. And of course my airbrush is clogged, so let me take a minute now. Sometimes when your airbrush is clogged, it's just because you have some dried paint or something like that comes in. So I just usually take a little bit of acetone and dump it in there, and then I will go around the needle, and I will take the needle off, take the needle out and move, because that's pretty much where the clog is at, and move it back and forth, and I'll spray it too. Alright. And you can see, I mean, it has, and it will come free once you use, especially if you're using acrylic paint. It really, I really recommend, guys. Let me get this finished cleaned out, and I'll be right back with you. But I really recommend, guys, that every time that you use your airbrush, you really thoroughly clean it out, because it can cause, it builds up a lot of gunk up in here, and it can cause you the cost of the airbrush and all that kind of stuff to clean it out. So about once a week or so, after a bunch of heavy painting, especially after I get finished painting stuff like this, I really take the time and clean off, pull the needle out and pull the little nozzle off, that little valve off, and then get up in there with these. I found out real well that these little, let me see if I can find one here. These little guys, these are the Dentex for braces. These work really well for getting up inside. If you take that little nozzle off, these get up in there with your cleaner, and it gets up in there real well, cleans out that hole, and you can get down in there real well, guys. These run for about you can get these at Dollar General or Dollar Tree for a 5-pack for $1. I really recommend getting these guys. They work really well for cleaning out your airbrushes, simply for the fact that, man, it can cause a lot of problems, and these airbrushes aren't really cheap. So I really recommend that you do that, guys. So look those up. It's the Dentex, brace cleaner for braces, and they'll work really well for that. So I'll put just a little bit of blue down in here. Put that over the side. Let me clean off my bottle here. Alright, I'll spray this. You see all that gunk come out of there? It means my needle's too far back. So I'm going to move this. Until you have a good clean, I don't know if you can see it or not, but you see right here, it just kind of went, so it splotted out on me, and it means my needle was too far back and too much was getting out. So you have to readjust your needle just enough to where you get a good fine spray out of it, and apparently that's still too much. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to spray. I'm just going to go through and just kind of lightly, go up there, and then the same thing on this other one. And then we're going to let that sit for a minute. I'm going to get my heat gun now on these. On this clear pot, you don't want to hold it too long, just enough to get it a good dry. And then we're going to let this dry for the afternoon, and then later on this afternoon I'll come back and go through and do another coat, and then I'll do my light blocking with, I'll spray some white on there. So guys, that's it for now. I was going to tell you too about the airbrush cleaner, guys. I know this one's a little bit old. This All-Clad 2 lacquer airbrush thinner really works real good for the for the heavy duty cleaning and stuff like that. I usually use this stuff once I get it once I get through for the night. After I do each coat, I'll use my acetone, to clean it out in between each coat, and then once I get through, I usually use this All-Clad lacquer airbrush thinner, especially when you're using like the iridescent paints from Mackenzie Taxidermy, because those are lacquer. These work real well for cleaning that out after you get done. This runs about $6 or so, $6 to $8 at Hobbytown. And I also found, if you can get it, I've been having a hard time trying to find this stuff, but this Tamiya airbrush cleaner works really good too as well. You get through with the night, and this works well with the enamels, lacquers, and acrylics too. So, and it really keeps your airbrush clean too. So this runs about $8 as well if you can find it. I've been having trouble at my Hobbytown trying to find it, but I use it very sparingly. I don't fill up the whole thing with the whole tub of airbrush. I just fill it just a little bit, and I leave it in there after I get through, so to let it kind of go through and clean, and then I'll go through and do a good clean out. So, but also with the acrylics too, I know I use ammonia, good old-fashioned ammonia Windex. This is just the lemon scented ammonia. You can get this stuff for a $1, $1.50 at Walmart, any store that carries the gallon jug of ammonia. This stuff here works really well. It cleans out the airbrush. It doesn't work on enamels or lacquers, but it really works good on acrylics, guys. So this does a real good job. So if you don't have if you don't want to just use regular water, whatever, you can use want something a little stronger. This ammonia will get in there, and it will it will get up in there and clean it out real well. Just use a Q-tip and get down in there and clean it out, and you might have to do it a couple times. And then what I do is, after I use this a couple of times run it through, I'll use just a little bit of acetone to get it through, and to run it through to clean it all out and everything, and go from there, guys. So alright, guys, well, that's going to be a wrap for this episode. Probably the next episode you'll see me will be the reveal. I'm going to have, I'll upload the video, I'll do the video Friday and probably upload it Monday or so, next Monday, and hopefully I can get this thing shipped out to my client on, next week when he sends me the box for it. So, Friday afternoon or evening will be the reveal, and then go from there, guys. So until then, guys, take care, keep building those models, stay safe, and happy modeling, everybody.